I reached into his jacket to hang it up. What I pulled out instead was the end of my marriage. It was folded once. A glossy cream slip with gold print, the kind of receipt you only get from luxury hotels. The kind I had circled in magazines when we were still in love, when we still planned getaways together. I unfolded it with shaking hands. The logo read, "The Riverstone Inn, Lake Placid." I knew that place. It was the exact resort I begged him to take me for our 10-year anniversary. The same weekend he said he had to be in Chicago. For work. For meetings. For our future. But this receipt, dated 2 days ago, said otherwise. It said, King Suite. It said, 2 guests. It said, champagne and strawberries, delivered to the room. And just like that, my stomach turned. My mouth dried. And my heart, the one that believed in him for 10 years, started to crack. Before I go any further, I want to thank every one of you who has subscribed to the channel. Your support keeps me writing these real, raw stories that dig into what love and betrayal really feel like. And to all my new and returning viewers who have not hit that subscribe button yet, I am hoping this story is the one that changes that. Your likes, comments, and support are what fuel me. So after this short intro, please let me know in the comments, what would you have done if you found that receipt? Now let me tell you the truth. All of it. My name is Vanessa. I am 39 years old. Born and raised in New Jersey, but I have spent the last 15 years in a quiet suburb outside of Boston. I work in a boutique flower shop, my dream since I was a teenager. I have always been the romantic type. I still press roses between pages when they start to wilt. I still believe every love story has a beginning worth remembering. I met Damon when I was 24. He was charming in a clean-cut, Armani suit, Wall Street kind of way. I was soft, artistic, and full of dreams. He liked that I was different. I liked that he had a plan. We got married 3 years later, in autumn, under the trees of Vermont. For a while, we were happy. At least I thought we were. But lately, Damon had been, somewhere else. Distant. Quiet. More interested in his phone than my eyes. He stopped noticing my hair when I curled it. He stopped touching me like he used to. His kisses became obligatory, more like check marks than connection. Still, I held on. When our anniversary came up, 10 years, I asked him if we could go away. Just the two of us. He promised me he would check with work. But 2 days before the weekend, he said he could not make it. Big client in Chicago. Conference call. Flights he could not move. He packed his bags. Kissed me on the forehead. And said, "I will make it up to you." I believed him. Now, standing in the hallway of our home, holding a hotel receipt for 2. I felt like the dumbest woman alive. I searched his coat again. Nothing else. Just the receipt. No name of the second guest. No handwritten note. Just that one printed truth that screamed louder than anything I had ever read. I sat down on the couch and stared at the fireplace. The same one we built together. The one we danced in front of with wine glasses and old jazz on rainy nights. I remembered the dress I bought for that trip, a deep red satin with a low back. I had pictured myself wearing it with curled hair, candlelight, and his eyes drinking me in. That dress was still hanging in the back of my closet. Unworn. Unwanted. I did not cry. Not yet. My body was too numb. Instead, I walked up the stairs like I was floating. I opened his closet. I checked his luggage. Empty. Nothing left behind except the faintest smell of perfume, sweet, citrusy, not mine. And that was when I knew. He did not just cheat on me. He took her on our trip. He gave her our view, our champagne, our bed. The worst part? I did not even know who she was. I could not sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured his hands on her waist. his voice whispering things he had not told me in years. Was she younger? Was she prettier? Did he love her? The next morning, I made coffee, fed the dog, and sat in silence. He would be home that evening. He called me around noon. Said his flight was delayed. Asked how I was feeling. I told him I was fine. I said, I cannot wait to see you. And he said, same here, baby. His voice sounded so real. So normal. It made me sick. He had no idea I had seen the receipt. He had no idea I had already packed a bag of my own. What he did not know was that I was not just going to wait for him. I was going to follow him the next time he left. I was going to find her. And I was going to make sure they both remembered the day they thought I would stay silent. He walked through the front door with that same confident swagger. His coat slung casually over his shoulder, suitcase rolling behind him, and that smile, the one that had once disarmed me, soft and easy, like he had nothing to hide. But I knew. And more than that, I had felt it. The scent hit me before his arms did. A soft, citrusy perfume I had never worn a day in my life. He hugged me, his cheek brushing mine. That scent clung to his skin like a ghost he thought I would never see. It smelled expensive, youthful, seductive. It smelled like her. I stood still. I let him wrap me up in the same arms he had probably wrapped around her days ago in a hotel suite I begged him to take me to. He kissed my forehead. He told me he missed me. And I smiled like a woman too weak to scream. Dinner was already on the table. I had cooked. I do not know why. Habit, maybe. Hope, even. He talked about Chicago. The big meeting. His voice smooth, detailed, like a well-practiced speech. But I was not listening. I was studying. His tan was just a shade deeper. His shirt had a fresh crease. And his phone, he kept flipping its screen down every time it buzzed. He told me he was tired. I watched him climb the stairs, drag his bag into the room, and close the door. I stood at the bottom, staring up, wondering how I became invisible to the man who once could not go 5 minutes without touching me. The next morning, I checked the passenger seat of his car. It was reclined slightly. His glove compartment had a crumpled napkin from the Riverstone Inn's lounge, same logo as the receipt. There was a lipstick smudge on it. Pale pink. The same shade I had seen on the edge of a champagne flute on their Instagram page. Yes. I checked the hotel's tagged photos. I had scrolled through every public image from that weekend like a detective in my own heartbreak. And there, in one blurry shot, was him. Sitting across from someone with long, honey blonde hair, holding hands over a table. Her face turned just enough to see her smile. I could not breathe. I knew that smile. I had seen it before. In my own backyard. Her name was Claire. Our neighbor. 32. Divorced. Lived 3 houses down. She was sweet in a quiet way. Waved when she saw me. Asked about my flowers. But she always talked to Damon more than she talked to me. It never crossed my mind as strange, until now. I remembered the barbecue we had last fall. She came over with a bottle of red and wore a fitted black dress that made heads turn. Damon had grilled her steak to perfection. They laughed about a Netflix show only the two of them watched. I brushed it off. Because trust, like a house, can stand on cracks until something shakes the foundation. And I had found the fault line. 2 days later, I called in sick to work. I parked 3 blocks down from Claire's place and waited. I felt like a fool. Like I was chasing shadows. But some part of me needed to see it, to know. At 11:27 a.m., his car pulled up in front of her house. He stepped out with coffee in one hand and a bakery bag in the other. She opened the door. Wearing nothing but a robe. He leaned in. She kissed him. Right there. Like I never existed. I went home. I did not cry. I did not scream. I made tea, sat on the porch, and stared out at the maple tree we planted on our 5th anniversary. I thought about every time he had said, "I am lucky to have you." Every time he touched me and told me I was his home. Every time he walked into this house with another woman's scent still on his chest. I thought about Claire, smiling at me from across the fence. Asking about my garden. Complimenting my dress. Sleeping with my husband. That night, I pulled the red satin dress from the back of my closet. I had bought it for the anniversary trip that never happened. I put it on. I curled my hair. I looked myself in the mirror, and for the first time in weeks, I saw a woman who deserved better. He came home around 8. He noticed the dress. "Going somewhere?" he asked. I said, "No." "But you were." He tilted his head. Confused. But he knew. Deep down, he knew. I held up the hotel receipt. Then the napkin. Then I showed him the photo from Instagram. His face changed. Not into fear. But into silence. And that was worse. "You knew," I said. "You just thought I would never find out." He opened his mouth, but I raised my hand. "I do not need your story, Damon. I already have it. And it is not worth retelling." He stood there like a man stripped naked. And I, in my red satin dress, broken but standing, walked past him and poured myself a drink. He asked if we could talk. I said, "You already used your words on her." That night, he slept in the guest room. And I slept like I had not in months. But I was not done yet. Not even close. The woman who had kissed my husband. The woman who smiled at me through lies. She was going to hear from me next. I did not knock. I had spent too many nights knocking on locked emotional doors in my own marriage, begging for connection, for truth, for anything that felt real. But this time, I walked straight into it. Claire's front door was slightly cracked. Her car was in the driveway. My husband's watch, the same one I gave him for our 8th anniversary, was on the entry table inside. She came down the stairs in leggings and a tank top, her wet hair twisted into a towel. She froze when she saw me. For a second, we both stood in silence, two women divided by one lie that had become a shared truth. "You look surprised," I said, stepping inside. She opened her mouth to speak, but I cut her off. "I saw you," I said. "The hotel. The kiss. The robe. I know everything." Her mouth tightened. She wrapped her arms around herself like she was suddenly cold. I walked past her, into her living room. It smelled like lavender. Her walls were painted cream. A wine glass sat half full on the side table, next to a book of poetry I once loaned her. The betrayal stung sharper with every familiar detail. "I trusted you," I said. "I talked to you about my marriage. I cried to you about the distance. And you were the distance." She said it was a mistake. She said she did not plan for it to happen. She said Damon told her we were already broken. Of course he did. I let her talk. I let her wrap her lies in soft apologies and small voices. But nothing she said could sew the rip they had both torn through the fabric of my life. I did not scream. I did not curse. I simply looked her in the eye and said, "I hope he cheats on you too. That way, you will know exactly what it feels like to be me." Then I walked out. That weekend, I booked a hotel room at the Riverstone Inn. The same suite. The same place. The same bed he defiled. I booked it in my name. Paid in cash. Checked in alone. Then I called Damon. I told him I wanted to talk. I told him to meet me there. He arrived 2 hours later. He looked nervous, unsure. He had shaved. Wore a button-down. Tried to look clean. I almost laughed. He followed me into the suite, looked around, and asked, "Is this?" I nodded. Yes. The same room. The same sheets you slept on with her. But now, I am here. And only you and I are going to talk. He sat down. I stayed standing. I told him everything. Every moment I had felt abandoned. Every time I had looked at the woman he was touching and thought, she is stealing the life I built. I told him about the scent on his skin. The hotel receipt. The Instagram photo. The lipstick on the napkin. The way Claire looked at me when I confronted her, like a child caught stealing candy, but not sorry she took it. He did not interrupt. Maybe because guilt had finally paralyzed him. He asked if I wanted to fix things. He asked if I still loved him. And that was when I looked him straight in the eyes and told him the truth. I loved the man I married. But you buried him when you took her on this trip. He reached for my hand. I pulled away. Then I told him something he did not expect. I did not come here for closure. I came here to let you sit in the room you destroyed, alone. I picked up my bag. Walked toward the door. He stood up. Where are you going? I turned back to him, my hand on the doorknob. To find myself. The version of me that existed before your lies. Before your empty promises. Before I traded my joy for your security. I walked out. He did not follow. 2 months later, the divorce papers were signed. He kept the house. I did not want it. Too many ghosts in the walls. Too many memories stained into the floorboards. Claire. She moved in with him, from what I heard. Good. Now she could sit beside his lies. Sleep in the bed of his guilt. Watch as his love decayed in her hands the same way it did in mine. As for me, I started over. I rented a small apartment above a bookstore in downtown Boston. Reopened my flower shop. I painted again. I wore red lipstick. I slept diagonally in my bed. I stopped waiting for text messages that never came. And one rainy Sunday morning, I woke up, made coffee, and smiled. Not because the pain was gone. But because it no longer owned me. Some betrayals break you. Others awaken you. Damon broke me. But he also woke me up. And I will never go back to sleep.